In my last video, I went over some of the features of Debian 12 and just gushed over how great it is. So today I want to install Debian the same way I have on my laptop, a minimal-ish, suckless-ish Debian 12 install with encrypted Btrfs subvolumes. So let's get started, shall we? So if you want to follow along, first you'll need to download the latest version of Debian Stable. I prefer the net installer, so it installs the updates at the time of the install, so there's no need to run updates after the install is complete. So as of the time of the recording, if you're going to install Debian with Btrfs on root, it will create an @rootfs subvolume, and that's it. Timeshift will not work with this configuration, but then again, Timeshift will not work with encrypted subvolumes anyway. So I will not be changing the name of my root subvolume. If you did not want to encrypt your install, I will show you where you can deviate from my install. And I can actually point you to another video I made where I installed Debian with non-encrypted Btrfs subvolumes. And I'll leave a card somewhere around here. So now that we are booted into our ISO, we're going to select Advanced Options, go down here to Expert Install. You can do the graphical one, but I've always had the best luck with the Expert Install, which is an incursus type install. So we're going to choose our language, English, United States, United States. I'm just going to tab and hit continue here. And access software for blind person using Braille display, don't have that. So I just press enter, configure the keyboard. I have an American keyboard. We're going to detect and mount installation media. That's it. Load installer components for installation media. I'm actually not going to load anything, so I'm just going to tab to continue. And detect the network hardware. I'm going to configure the network. Automatic configuring is good for me. 3 seconds timeout time is fine. All right, well, it configured the network with the DHCP. Host name of Debian is fine with me. Domain name, I'm not going to use one. And then set up users and passwords. Now, there's a way you can do this where you don't have to have a root account. So if you choose to allow root to log in, the user account will not be given the sudo privileges. So do you want to log in as root? I do. So I'm going to hit yes. I'm going to give it a root password, and I'm going to verify it. Now, do I want to create a normal user account now? I do. I'm going to hit yes. I'm going to give that account name Mike. Choose a password for the new user. And then configure the clock. Set clock to NTP, yes. Which time server you use, that one's fine. We're going to put it in the central time zone because that's where I'm at. And we're going to detect the disk now. Now we're going to partition the disks. Now what you may want to do if you do not want to encrypt your Btrfs install, you can use guided use entire disk, but I'm going to use guided use entire disk and set up encrypted LVM. Because I still want to use a swap file instead of using ZRAM or what have you. That's kind of out of the scope of this video. I'm just going to use guided, use entire disk, and set up encrypted LVM. Virtual disk, that works good for me. All files on one partition. That is key. So I'm going to hit enter here. Write changes to disk and configure LVM. I'm going to tab over and hit yes. Now, if you want to have a better grade encryption, let this run. But for the sake of the video, I'm okay with it being slightly not as great. So I'm just going to hit enter now, because all that did was just overwrite the entire disk with random data. So if you wanted to have a better encrypt, or a better encryption rather, you should let that run. But if not, it'll be slightly less good. Now we're going to set up an encryption passphrase. So at boot time, it's going to pop up, encryption passphrase, whatever, and you just type this in. So you want to make this a good passphrase. So let's do that. We're going to say the angels have the phone box. The angels have the phone box. I have that on a shirt. Oh, they weren't the same. Oh no. Were they the same this time? Or did I just break something? Okay. All right, so the name of the new volume group. It's going to default to whatever host name you have, -VG for volume group. I'm fine with it being called Debian-VG. That's fine, but if you want to change that, here's where you do that. I'm going to just tab over to continue, and I'm just going to use all of it. If you wanted to do thin provisioning here, you can back that off. I gave this 50 some odd gigs. You can give it a little bit less if you wanted to be able to give it some more later, or use a little bit of that hard drive for something else. But I'm just going to give it the whole thing. I'm going to tab over and hit continue. Now, if you want some more information about LVM, I can leave a link to a video for LearnLinuxTV. Jay over there had an incredible video for LVM, and I highly recommend watching that. It is fantastic. Now, in this screen is actually where we're going to make this a Btrfs install, because if we just hit enter right now, it would format it to ext4, and all of this would have been for naught. So I'm just going to scroll up, and where it says ext4 on root, I'm going to hit enter here, and then enter again and change this to Btrfs journaling file system. Now we're going to hit done setting up partition. So now we have Btrfs on root. We have a swap, 1 gig swap. We have our LVM set up, ESP on partition 1, ext2 for boot, and our encrypted Btrfs on the third partition. So let's go to finish partitioning and write changes to disk. Tab over to yes, and write the changes. Now, before we install the base system, I want to pass this a key. You're not going to see it on the screen here, but if you're following along and doing this on hardware or whatever, you'll hit Control-Alt-F2. Then press enter to activate the console. This is going to be a little hard to see right now, but I'm going to do my best to describe everything that I'm doing. So all I'm going to do here is hit Control-L to clear the screen, and then run df. So now we see that we have dev, mapper, Debian VG root. And all we have is target, boot, and boot EFI. What we're going to want to do here is unmount all of that. So let's run umount /target boot EFI. And then just hit the up arrow, take the EFI off, hit that, and then one more time and just unmount target. So now what we want to do is actually mount that device, or dev mapper Debian VG root. Let's mount that to MNT. So mount /dev mapper Debian VG root to /MNT. So if we cd into /MNT and run ls, you see we have an @rootfs subvolume. Let's go ahead and create the other subvolumes that we want. So let's run Btrfs subvolume create at home. Created subvolume at home. So let's hit the up arrow and then backspace to home, and then we're going to create a subvolume called at snapshots. So if we run ls again, you'll see we have our 3 Btrfs subvolumes here. If you want to get some information on these, so if you want the subvol ID, what you can run is Btrfs subvol or subvolume. You can do subvol or subvolume list and then put a dot for the current directory. You'll see we have 256, 257, and 258 for rootfs, home, and snapshots respectively. Now you can mount these with, by the subvolume ID or the subvolume name. That choice is up to you, however you want to go about it. So what I want to do now is actually mount @rootfs to my target, where the dev mapper Debian VG root was mounted to begin with. I want to mount just that subvolume there now. So let's run mount, and then pass it some options. So -O for options. Read write. I want it to be no A time. I want space _ cache equals V2. Honestly, I don't believe you have to put V2 in right as of now, but I think it defaults to version 2. I'm going to leave it the way it is just to be on the safe side, so I know for a fact that it is going to use version 2. Version 2 has some optimizations that will actually increase your speed a little bit. So now we're going to give it some more options. I'm going to pass it the SSD option because, of course, this is running on an SSD. And we're going to give it discard equals async, ASYNC. And what this does is pretty much just turn on trim for your SSD. Now we're going to enable some compression. So we're going to say compress equals ZSTD. There's several different compression methods you can use nowadays, and I've gotten away from using what I was before and moved over to ZSTD. And you can give ZSTD levels of compression that you want it to do. 1 through, I think, like 12 or 15 or something. But the higher the number, the more it's going to try to compress, but also the more CPU usage you're going to have. So right now in this virtual machine, I'm just going to say :5. So after the compression, I'm going to add another comma, and we're going to use the subvol IDs on this one. So let's say subvol ID, and you're going to need to type subvol ID, not subvolume ID or what have you. It will need to be subvol ID. And we're going to say 256, and that is for @rootfs. So that's all of our options. Now we're going to need to give it the device. So /dev mapper Debian VG root, and then we're going to give it the destination, where we want it to mount to. And we want this mounted at /target. Okay, so now that we have that mounted in target, let's create some directories in that subvolume that we just mounted in target to mount our other subvolumes in. So let's mkdir-p /target/boot/EFI. Now let's mkdir/target/home. mkdir/target/.snapshots, because I want the snapshots to be a hidden directory. That's why I added the period in front. All right, so now let's go ahead and mount our home and snapshots the same way we mounted our root. So I'm just going to hit arrow up a few times until I get back to my other command. I'm going to change this from 256 to 257 and change the destination from /target to /target/home. And then arrow up one more time. We're going to change 257 to 258. Oh. And then /target/home to /target/.snapshots. And now we can just mount our boot directories normally. So let's mount /dev/vda2 /target/boot. And then mount /dev/vda1 /target boot EFI. All right, so that should be everything mounted the way we need to, but we're still not done. Seeing how we have mounted our subvolumes, created more subvolumes, and mounted those inside other subvolumes. So I know this is kind of getting complicated, but bear with me. That's why I'm trying to explain this the way I am, so it's easier to kind of wrap your head around. So what I want to do now is cd into /target. Let's run an ls, and you can see we have boot, Etsy, home, and media. So I want to cd into Etsy, and we're going to edit our FS tab, or file system table file. So if we run ls, and you'll see two files. You'll see a crypt tab and an FS tab. We're not going to need to mess with the crypt tab. The only one we need to worry about right now for this style of install or whatever is FS tab. So let's run nano FS tab. So dev mapper Debian VG root, and then / meaning for root. It's a Btrfs. Okay, so all we need to do now is delete subvol and defaults, and then just type in what we did to mount everything the first time. So that was read write, no A time, space underscore cache equals v2, SSD, discard equals async, compress equals zstd colon 5, subvol ID equals 256. And that should be it for this one. So now that all of that is typed out, instead of typing out everything for at home and at snapshots or what have you, let's actually hit Control K to delete that line, then Control U, Control U, Control U. So now we can just edit these other two lines and we have all of our subvolumes taken care of. So our mount point is going to be /home. And then arrow over to subvol ID. We're going to change 256 to 257. And then come all the way back over here. And then our mount point for our snapshots directory is /snapshots. Because that is a hidden directory. We're going to change that 256 to 258. Now we're going to hit Control O to write it out, and then Control X to exit. Now let's just CD back. Let's hit Control L to clear the screen. And now I want to umount /mnt. All that did was just unmount the dev mapper Debian VG root device, but all the subvolumes are still mounted where they need to be. So if I run the df command again, you'll see that we have /target, /home, and /.snapshots. And you'll see all of those are the same device, but they're all different subvolumes in that same device. And then target boot and then target boot EFI are our normal, unencrypted partitions that are mounted for boot and EFI. So all that should be good to go. So if we type in exit, it says press enter to activate this console. Now we can pass it another key. And if you're following along on hardware, do this as Control-Alt-F1, and that will get us back to our installer. So now let's just hit enter to install the base system. All right, so now if we want to choose a kernel that we want to install, either Linux Image 6.1.0.9 or Linux Image AMD64, they're the same kernel, so I just usually hit enter here. Now, if you want to do a generic install or a targeted install, that's completely up to you. I've done both on hardware, and it has been fine. There's just a few drivers that aren't installed when you choose targeted. But for now, it's a VM. I've got plenty of room. I'm just going to use the generic. So now we're going to configure the package manager. It's just going to set up apt. So do we want to scan extra installation media? No, we do not. Use a network mirror? Yes, absolutely. HTTP is fine. We're going to set this up for United States. And deb.debian.org is a fine choice if you want to just get it done or whatever. But if you want to scroll down and pick something that's a little bit closer to you, so let's say for me, Atlanta would be a little closer, but there's actually a utility you can run later on after the install is complete to pick which mirror would be the fastest for you. And I believe Drew over at JustAGuy Linux has covered this before, and if I can find that video, I'll leave a link to that down in the description if you want to check that out too. It's pretty great. And Drew has an awesome channel if you hadn't checked him out yet. Fantastic stuff over there. So deb.debian.org is what I'm going to choose now. I'm not going to use a proxy. Do I want to use non-free firmware? Now, if you want to keep this pure, I mean absolutely borderline FSF, endorsed or what have you, you would choose no here. But if you want Wi-Fi working out of the box, hit yes. Do I want to use non-free software? You can choose yes or no. You can, and it will be fine. But if you want to install Steam or whatever, I would highly recommend using. I would highly recommend saying yes here. So I am going to put yes, and I do want source repositories available in apt. I'll hit yes again. Now you just select if you want security updates, if you want release updates, and backported software. I would recommend choosing all of these because let's say you are installing Debian for the long haul and you wind up getting a new piece of hardware or something that's not quite supported yet in Debian stable. You can use the backports to install that updated software. So let's say a new kernel, a new Mesa driver, a new whatever. You can install it through backports, and there you go. Now select and install software. This is where it's going to get minimal. I do not want automatic updates because I like to run sudo apt update. Now, do I want to participate in the package survey? I generally do participate if I'm installing on hardware. But since this is just a VM, I'm going to hit no here. Now, here's where you can select your desktop environments. If you want GNOME, install GNOME. If you want XFCE, install XFCE. GNOME Flashback, I've actually never installed. I may try that later. KDE Plasma, Cinnamon, Mate, LXDE, LXQT, Web Server, SSH Server. All I'm going to do is install the standard system utilities. So we're going to tab over and hit continue. All right, so let's install the Grub bootloader. Force Grub installation into the EFI removable media path. Yes. Update NVRAM variables to automatically boot into Debian. Sure. Run OS Prober to detect other OSs. No. All right, so now we're just going to finish the installation. Set the system clock to UTC. All right, hit continue to reboot. All right, so we're going to type in our encryption passphrase that I wound up telling y'all what it was. All right, so we are logged in as the Mike user, so we don't have sudo privileges just yet. So let's go ahead and give Mike sudo. We're going to su and then type in our root password. And I know this is really small right now. I'm about to fix it. So let's run apt install git sudo and Neovim. Got to have Neovim. It's a requirement for me. So now let's run nvim/etc sudoers. We're going to look for root. There we are. So let's just copy this line. And then let's change word to Mike. So now the Mike user will have the same privileges as the root user. WQ with an exclamation point to override everything. So there we go. Let's clear the screen and then run exit. So now we're back to the Mike user. So let's run sudo apt update. And you see we have sudo working. Let's run sudo dpkg reconfigure console setup utf-8. Let's go to, let's say Latin 1 and Latin 5. That's fine. Terminus. Let's go all the way to the bottom to select the largest one. There we go. That should be a little easier to see now. So what I did here was just do a basic Debian install. I want to keep this VM exactly the way it is, so I'm just going to clone it and then boot right back into the clone and then start again. Because for other Debian related videos, I'd like to have this as a starting point. So I'm going to pause the video here and we're going to boot into a clone and I'll catch back up with you in just a minute. And I'm back. So we are now booted into a clone of what I just made. And to prove that everything is exactly the same, I'm going to run sudo btrfs subvolume list on root. Oh. Sudo btrfs subvolume list root. And you see we have 256 as root fs, 257 is home, and 258 is snapshots. If I run df, you'll see that we have the same setup as what we had before. So let's clear the screen, and we're going to install a few things here. Now, what I want to do, I want to have my .files on this, so there's going to be a few commands on here that you may not want to run. So just bear with me, and I will, we'll get this sorted out. So I want to run mkdir -p home/ local share ld, and let's cd into .local share ld, and then let's run git clone https://gitlab.com/linuxdabbler/dotfiles. And then when that completes, let's git clone https://gitlab.com/linuxdabbler/debian install scripts. All right, so now let's cd into those .files. If I clear the screen and then run ls-a, you'll see that we have a bashrc, a .config directory, a bash profile, a .local directory, root scripts directory, superuser, a .xnetrc, and a zsh.env. I'm not going to be using zsh today, so it's all going to be about bash. So what I want to do, I want to have my bash customizations in that .bashrc. So I want to cat .bashrc into home/.bashrc. So now all of my customizations will be in .bashrc. Now I want to move my bash profile to home. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you what's in that bash profile. So it's going to auto start DWM when I log in, pretty much, and make sure that local bin is in the path. So let's cp.bash_profile to home. Now let's cp-r.config home. So now let's cd into .local. You see we have a bin directory here. We don't have a bin, local bin directory yet in our home directory, so let's make that directory mkdir home/.local bin. If we cd further into our bin directory here, you see we have a bunch of scripts. So I want to copy everything to home/.local bin. I'm going to back up a little bit, and now you see we have a root scripts directory. Let's cd into root scripts. We have boot snapshot, we have snapctl, and vmctl. So let's sudo cp everything to /user local bin. That way it's in root's path. And if we cd into superuser, you'll see we have an app.conf, we have a Debian sudoers, a doas.conf, and a sources.list.d. So if we cd into apt.conf.d and we run an ls, you see we have a 80 snapshot conf and a 99 default release. So if I cat out the snapshot conf, you'll see it wants to run snapctl root anytime dpkg is invoked. Before it installs anything, it's going to make a snapshot. So I want to put that in my etc app.conf.d directory. And if I cat the 99 default release, you'll see that its default release is Bookworm. That way, if I were to, let's say, add the unstable repo or whatever, it will default to Bookworm, but I can give it a -t and install something from unstable if I want to. That's fairly advanced stuff, and I may cover that in a later video. So anyway, let's clear the screen again and sudo cp everything to /etc app.conf.d. And then if we cd into sources.list.d, you'll see we have a backports.list, a stable.list, testing.list, and unstable.list. The contents of these files would be the same thing as what you would see in Etsy app sources.list. So let's say I cat out, let's see, unstable.list. You'll see it just has those two lines that you would see in Etsy app sources.list if you were running SID. I'm not going to mess with any of this stuff because it's all this video is going to be about stable. I'm not going to mess with any of the repos anymore. All right, so all that's done. And let's cd into .local share ld Debian install scripts. Now there's a few things that I want to install here, like I want to install Devour, I want to install the fonts, I want to install some nerd fonts, I want to install stuff like that. So let's run /devour /fonts, and let's do Furamano, let's do Groovebox theme, let's do JetBrains, let's do Inconsolata, let's do Librewolf, and Ubuntu nerd fonts, and yeah, we're good to go. All right, well, that finished up nicely. So if you were watching the text scroll by, you probably noticed some yellow text going through there. So I actually have some snapshots being taken now. So let's clear the screen, and I want to cd back out of this, and let's run sudo btrfs subvolume list on root again. See, we have several snapshots already now. So let's say we wanted to boot into a snapshot. We can actually edit the FS tab and give it either 259, 260, 261, 262, 263, and boot into whatever snapshot we wanted from there. So let's clear the screen. Now, another thing that you may want to do, especially if you want to play games on this, you want to add 32-bit packages. So, for Steam and stuff like that. So if you want to add 32-bit packages, I'll show you what command to run now. Let's run sudo dpkg --add -architecture i386. And then run and sudo apt update. That's what you would want to run. Oh, sorry, not 368, 386. And sudo apt update. All right, and since we added Librewolf, it's complaining now that there's not a 32-bit version. But you can change the Librewolf.list in Etsy apt sources.conf.d/Librewolf.list to make it look for just a 64-bit package, but for now, it's fine, whatever. So now let's say you're following along on hardware and you want to install virtual machines. What I would recommend you doing is rebooting into your BIOS or UEFI or whatever it is for your motherboard and looking for VT-D or VT-X or whatever it is on Intel, and just making sure that that is enabled, making sure virtualization is enabled in your BIOS. Then booting back into the system. And on Debian, I highly recommend using QEMU and Virt Manager as opposed to VirtualBox, because VirtualBox I don't believe is in the repos anymore, and there's a hacky way to get it going, but I don't like that. And plus, I like Virt Manager way better. So if you wanted to do that, you would run sudo apt install QEMU-KVM libvirt clients. You know what? Let me clear the screen. Sudo apt install QEMU/KVM libvirt-clients libvirt daemon libvirt daemon system bridge utils virt inst and virt manager. That would be everything you would need to install to enable virtualization. So, tell you what, I am going to go ahead and run this. I mean, I know this is in a VM, so I'm not really going to be installing a VM inside a VM. That would just kind of be weird and dumb. Just for illustrative purposes, I'm going to go ahead and install it, and I'll show you what to enable in systemd to get everything working properly. Okay, so now that we have the software installed, we need to enable the services on boot. So the way to do that in Debian would be sudo systemctl enable libvirtd. If you want to start that service now, you would do sudo systemctl, and instead of enable, start. Now you would want to add your user to the libvirt group. Easiest way to do that on Debian is going to be sudo add user Mike, or your username, to libvirt, and then sudo add user Mike, or your username, to libvirt. If I can remember to put a space in it, -q, sudo add user Mike, or your user, to libvirt-qemu. And you should be ready to start using Virt Manager now. Now, another thing I like to do in Debian, I want to fix the slow shutdown times. So if you have something running in the background when you reboot or what have you, it'll wait like a minute and a half or so before it will finally shut it down and reboot. So to fix that, I want to run sudo nvim /etc systemd /system.conf. And I want to change my default timeout stop seconds. So if I do a search for default, default timeout stop seconds, if I remove that comment and then change 15 or change 90 to 15 seconds. Let's hit :WQ to write that, and we are good to go. So that will actually just make it go ahead and reboot a little quicker. So I'm sure you're tired of seeing me typing stuff in the TTY. So let's go ahead and start installing some GUI programs and some utilities and stuff that we're going to need once we get booted into DWM, and go ahead and install the dependencies and all that. So we're getting to the meat and potatoes now. So thank you for bearing with me. So let's run sudo apt install xorg xserver-xorg libxft-dev lib X11-dev libxenorama-dev libxcb1-dev gcc make curl wget exa, because I like a prettier version of ls, Firefox-ESR, VIFM. I really like Uberzug for image previews. Next, let's install fonts, Noto, color, emoji. Let's install FZF, PCManFM, PyCom, Dunst, XWallpaper, SXIV, Alacrity, Pulse Mixer, Pulse Audio, also utils, XDO, and XDO tool. Let's give that the YY flag. All right, now I want this video to be about installing and customizing DWM, not necessarily ST and D menu. So I'm going to be using my built and configured versions of ST and D menu to keep me from squirreling and stay on task. If you'd like to see a video about my builds of ST and D menu, leave a comment and let me know. So I'm going to make a directory now for my built from source stuff. So let's mkdir home/.local source. Oh, it already exists. Never mind. cd.local source. See, I have okay. So when I installed Devour, it made it. All right, good deal. So now that we are in our local source directory, let's go ahead and get my Suckless Software repo, and we'll get going. So git clone https://gitlab.com/linuxtabler/suckless_software. All right, if we cd into Suckless Software, you'll see we have dmenu, DWM, SL status, and git. I'm not going to mess with SL status today, so I'm just going to use my built-in script that I've written for DWM. So let's actually cd into dmenu, and let's run sudo make install. This is the only one that I'm going to be running make install for, because dmenu needs to be in root's path, and the rest of it can be in my path. All right. So now if we ls/user local bin, you'll see that we have dmenu in there. So let's clear the screen and then back up a directory, and let's cd into st. Let's run make. So let's ln-sf home/.local source Suckless Software st into home/.local bin. So now when I configure st, all I got to do is run make and then fire up st again, and it automatically reflects my changes. Good stuff. So let's clear that. Let's back up a directory, and I'm not going to use my version of DWM. We're going to do this from scratch. So we're going to move DWM to LD-DWM. All right, so that way it's not going to be in the way. What I want to do now is run wget to pull in the stock DWM from suckless.org. wget https://dl.suckless.org/dwm-6.4.tar.gz. If we run an ls here, you see we have the tar.gz file there. So now we need to untar it. So tar-xzf dwm 6.4 tar.gz. And you see we have a DWM 6.4 directory. I want to move this tar file somewhere else. So let's make a directory called tar files. And then move everything.gz to tar files. And then move DWM-6.4 to DWM. cd DWM. And now let's run make. And see, we have a DWM binary, so let's symlink that to our home local bin. So ln-sf home/.local source Suckless Software DWM to home/.local bin. Let's cd back home. Let's run ls-a. Okay, I did not move my xnetRC, so let's cd into .local share ld.files ls-a. I need to copy my .xnetRC to home, and I think that's about it. Oh, I need to have a backgrounds directory. So let's cd into home/.local share. See, I have a font directory, an icons directory, and LD directory. I want to get my wallpapers. So git clone https://gitlab.com/linuxtabler/backgrounds. So let's go ahead and reboot. And type in our unlocked passphrase. Log in with Mike and our password. And you see we have a nice wallpaper and a stock DWM. So if I hit Alt-Shift-Enter, that should give me ST. And let's clear the screen and run xrandr-s 1920 by 1080. And then run XWP to fix my wallpaper. There we go. That's looking way better. So let's cd into .config X11, because I just moved my .config over, so everything should be set up there. If I run ls here, I got an X profile file. So let's nvim X profile. And this is my auto start area right here, or my auto start script. So instead of running tomon.sh, I want to run xrandr -s 1920 by 1080. My auto start is going to run xrandr -s 1920 by 1080. It's going to run xwp to give me my wallpaper. It's going to run dunst pycom lxpolkit to give me a policy kit to run in case something that runs pkexec to elevate my privileges. It'll pop up a little window. xrdb to run a .x resources file, and xset rrate 350. And what this last line does is actually increase my scrolling speed in the environment here. So it's just a nice to have. You don't have to have that, but I like to have faster scrolling. So I'm going to hit X:WQ, and we are good to go. All right, so now that we have a stock DWM, let's go ahead and start configuring DWM. And by configure, I mean let's patch it. Before making the last video, I've been messing around more and more with DWM, and there is a way to use DWM without patches whatsoever and get a good experience, but you're going to have some scripts. So a lot of the Linuxy guys who say DWM is just unusable without patching, I disagree. You just got to adjust your expectations and your workflow for an unpatched DWM. So let's say you want scratch pads. You can write a script for that. Let's say you want to patch in, a different menu or whatever to exit. That's a dmenu script. And you can make it window manager agnostic so it can work on any window manager. So anyway, that's a whole other rant that I can get into, and I'm not doing that today. So I probably just ticked off the Linux cast a little bit, and I apologize, Matt. Love you, buddy, but I don't think we needed 42 patches. We can get by with a lot less. All right, bud. Anyway, let me cd back and then cd into .local source Suckless Software DWM. Let's run ls, and you see that this is our stock DWM config. If we cd back a directory and cd into ld DWM, you'll see that we have a patches directory. I'm just going to copy this directory over. Now, if you want to get these patches from the Suckless website, I'm going to show a few of those, but I'm just going to use these patches that I have in my repo. So let's cp-r patches to home/.local source Suckless Software DWM. Now let's say Alt-P gives me dmenu. Let's open Firefox, and that's going to open up on tag 9. So let's run Alt-Control-9, and that just makes it visible over here. Let's run this and go to suckless.org. If we go to DWM and then go to patches, so if I go back and then go to DWM, all right, if we go into suckless.org and DWM and expand the patches menu down here, or the little tree, and you see we have, in my list, I have always center, attach bottom, bottom stack, cool auto start, fake full screen, full gaps toggle, hide vacant tags, per tag, preserve and restart, status 2D, sys tray, and title color. You don't really need any of these, but I'm going to show you what a lot of these can do. So always center is pretty much any floating window that pops up on your screen is going to be centered, but it doesn't add a rule for it. So that's why I like always center, because it doesn't have to have a rule. Now the attach bottom is pretty much any new window that spawned is attached to the bottom of the stack instead of becoming the new master. DWM bottom stack is another layout. So if you take the master stack layout and then flip it 90 degrees, that's what that's going to be. DWM cool auto start is pretty much another way to auto start programs with DWM. But I like this way better than just doing the auto start patch, because instead of doing an auto start patch, you see I had stuff auto start anyway without any patches. But if that's the case, why am I running a cool auto start here? Or why am I going to patch in cool auto start? I have it in here just in case you want to run DWM with a display manager, like, you know, to start it with GDM or SDDM or whatever display manager you want. LY, doesn't matter. This pretty much puts the auto start in the config.h file. DWM fake full screen, that is a necessity for me, because right now you're looking at a DWM window that is full screened, but it's only taking up a quarter of my monitor right now. Now, full gaps toggle is probably the best gaps patch that I have used. That's simple, and you can toggle the gaps on and off, and you can adjust the gaps. I don't need vanity gaps where I can adjust every single gap, you know, inner gaps, outer gaps, top gaps, bottom gaps, in between vertical, in between horizontal, blah, blah, blah. I don't need all that. Full gaps toggle, it allows me to adjust gaps, reset gaps, toggle gaps, good to go. Now, hide vacant tags is something I really like to have too, because I don't need to see all these tags up here. I don't need to. I just want to see the ones that have windows on them. Now, the per tag patch is another one that I like to apply, because if I go into floating mode or bottom stack or whatever on one screen, or on one tag rather, and I go to another tag, I don't want that to be in floating mode or in bottom stack mode. I want that to have its own thing. So that's why I like to have per tag. Preserve on restart. DWM has a nasty habit of, if you don't have this patch applied and you've got windows open on several tags, if you restart DWM, it's just going to move everything to the first tag. This keeps it from doing that. Now, Status 2D systray. Status 2D and systray are actually two separate patches. If you want a systray, then you probably want colors in your bar too. So why not merge those two patches together? Make life easy. DWM title color. That one you don't need at all. But if you want to change the color of this title section up here, you can add this patch right here. It's dead simple, easy peasy. And you don't have to have a really complicated patch where you can change everything else. I just wanted a little bit more customization than what stock gave me. I found this patch. It works great, so I included it. So now let's just go ahead and start patching everything. So let's move everything that ends in .diff up a directory. Let's cd up a directory and run ls, and you see we got all those diffs in there now. Now, I'm going to move them back into the patches directory as I apply them. So if we want to patch in always center, we would do it this way. Patch-P1. You know what? I'm going to clear the screen and then increase my font size so everybody can see. That makes it a little better. So let's patch-P1 into DWM always center. All right, so that one worked. So let's move DWM always center into patches. Let's run make and then run Alt-Shift-Q, and now we have something that's always center. Any floating windows are always center. Let's do attach bottom patch now. So let's patch-P1 DWM attach bottom. So we have one part fail. So let's nvim dwm.c. And then let's open up a split for dwm.c.reject. And see, we need to change attach C to attach bottom C. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look for update geometry or update geom void. So let's Control K to get back up top. and let's search for update, GEOM, open parentheses, void. Let's hit next, and you see there's only 2. So you know we're in the right area here. So now if we go back to this line and then do a search for attach C. All right. We need to change attach C to attach bottom. Right, and quit that. Let's quit out of that. And then let's run make. Clear the screen. And Alt-Shift-Q. And now if we open up another window, you can see that it did work. All right, so let's move DWM attach bottom to patches. Now let's patch in bottom stack. So patch -P1 DWM bottom stack. Let's see. Patching file config.sh. Okay, all that succeeded. Good deal. So let's move DWM bottom stack to patches. Let's run. All right. Now we need to remove config.h, seeing how it patched in to config.def.h right here. We haven't made any customizations to config.h yet, so the generated file from config.def.h will be the same. So that's why I'm comfortable removing config.h right now. So let's remove that and run make, and we are good to go. Clear the screen, Alt-Shift-Q. Let's patch in cool auto start. So if we patch -P1 DWM cool auto start. See, we had one hunk fail out of the 5. Okay, so not a big deal. So let's nvim dwm.c. And then let's open a split for dwm.c.reject. Okay, so right now it looks like it just didn't add this one line. So static void auto start exec. All right, so let's look for the line that's above that. So let's look for static void zoom const. Okay. And you see it failed because it did not expect to see bstack and bstack horias right there. So not a big deal. So let's hit Control J to go down here, Control V to select the line, yank it, Control K to go back up. Let's hit P, hit X to get rid of the plus, escape, :WQ. All right. Now let's run make. Actually, let's remove config.h and then run make. Now, by default, in config.h, your auto start is automatically going to start ST. So when I restart this, I should get an ST window to pop up. So Alt-Shift-Q, and I have an ST window started up. So that did work. All right, so let's nvim config.def.h, and let's comment this out. Let's open up another window here, increase the font size, clear the screen, cd.config X11 xprofile. All right, so now let's run xwp null. Now let's do dunst null. Let's run pycom null. lx polkit null. Now xrdb home/.config x11x resources, that's going to need to be a script to work properly here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back up to the top and actually make another script too. Let's run this. Let's call this resolution.sh. And let's call this one xrdb-x resources. scrolling.sh. And let's do another one called fast scrolling.sh. All right, so let's write this. And now let's cd into .local bin and clear the screen, and then nvim resolution.sh. Give it a bin bash, and let's run xrender-s 1920 by 1080. And then chmod plus x resolution.sh. All right, the next thing is going to be xrdb resources. Let's nvim xrdb-x resources.sh. So let's run xrdb home/.config/x11/.x resources. And then chmod plus x xrdb-x resources.sh. And now let's run nvim fast scrolling.sh. Give that a bin bash, and let's run x set r rate 300 space 50 and then :wq, and then chmod plus x fast scrolling.sh. All right, so all that should be good to go there. Now let's hit that, right and quit that. And now let's rm config.h. Let's run make. And then let's cd back into home and then nvim.xnetrc, and let's comment out this line. So that way it does not source our X profile file, because it's all coming from the config.h now. So right and quit, cd.local source Suckless Software DWM, and then nvim config.def.h. So all this right here is going to be auto started when we restart DWM. Alt-Shift-Q, and everything stayed the same, so we know it worked. All right, so let's move DWM cool auto start to patches. Now let's patch -p1 fake full screen. DWM fake full screen. All right, everything succeeded there. rm config.h, run make, good to go. So let's move DWM fake full screen to patches. Now we're going to patch in the gaps. So let's clear the screen and then patch -p1 DWM full gaps toggle. All right, everything succeeded there. So rm config.h, run make, and you see we have gaps now. Let's clear the screen and then move DWM full gaps toggle to patches. Now let's hide the vacant tags. Patch -p1 DWM hide vacant tags. Run make, Alt-Shift-Q, and all the vacant tags are hidden. Nice. Let's clear the screen and then move DWM hide vacant tags to patches. Now let's do the per tag patch. Patch -p1 DWM per tag. All that succeeded. So let's run make, Alt-Shift-Q, and then let's clear the screen and then move DWM per tag to patches. Now let's patch -p1 DWM preserve on restart. All right, so we had 1 out of the 8 hunks fail. So let's nvim dwm.c, and then let's open up a split dwm.c.reject. And see, we got a bunch to add here. All right, so we know it's in the Manage Window section. So let's go up to the top, and let's do a search for Manage, open parentheses, Window, space W, X Window Attributes. All right, so we know we're in the right section here. So after that, let's look for Update WM Hints. All right, there's that. Let's go to the end of that and get us a space going here. Now let's go to visual line mode and select all of this. Going to yank it, Control K to come up to the top, and paste. And we can get rid of these extra lines. And let's go into visual block mode, Control V, and then go all the way down here, and then hit D to get rid of all that. And now we are good to go. All right, let's write and quit that. Let's get out of that, and then rmconfig.h, let's run make. All right, that worked really well. All right, so now let's mv DWM preserve on restart to patches. Okay, so we're almost done. Let's patch -p1 DWM status 2D systray. All right, so 4 out of the 35 hunks failed. And it looks like they were all in DWM.c. Okay, not a big deal. So let's nvim DWM.c. And then let's get a split going for DWM.c.reject. All right, now let's look for, let's say, define text TWX, okay? Define text TWX. Okay. All right, so that one failed because the patch program did not expect to see these two lines here. Define gap toggle, define gap reset. All right. All right, so let's go down and select all that, yank it, come back up, and then paste. Let's go into visual block mode and get rid of all these pluses. All right, that's good to go. Now let's go down here to enums, and then let's see, Shift V, and then net supported WM name state, WM name check. That works for me. We'll add it there, get rid of the plus. And then enum manager X embed. Okay, that goes up above WM protocols, WM delete, WM state. All right, let's get that line, yank it, go up to the top. So it goes above WM protocols, right there. All right, so now we're going to add static void update systray. Okay, so let's do a search for static void update status void. Okay, so we're where we need to be. Let's yank all those lines, paste that in. All right, get rid of those pluses. And now let's go to here and let's search for static monitor. Look for win to mon window W. Okay, that works for me. Bring that up and paste it in, get rid of the plus. And variables. Let's look for variables. Let's bring that in, and then we need to get rid of static char tech stext 256, replace with 1024. All right, so let's just go change word 1024, And let's see, X move resize window. Let's look for that one. X move resize window WP. Let's see, DPI M to borrow in, M to WX, M to BY, M to WWBH. Okay, so there was nothing added there. So Control J. All right, then get rid of the plus. And we should be getting down to the bottom here. Let's see, net atom supported. Let's look for that. Net atom, open bracket, net supported. See, that's X intern atom DPY, net supported false. WM name false. Okay. So let's visual line mode, yank all that. Then net supported and net WM name are going to be the ones getting replaced. We'll put that in. Visual block mode, go down here. Hit D to get rid of that. And let's see, int colors. Okay, it's pasting int colors right back. Okay. So if I look for net atom, net client list, X intern atom DPY, net client list false. Okay. So it looks like this is going to be pasted right above int cursors. Okay. So let's yank that, paste that in. All right. Now, let's see, scheme equal. All right, let's search for scheme equals ECALLOC, length colors I++, okay, color size of CLRs, okay, so when you get rid of that, go down here and yank this, go into visual line and paste that in, get rid of that, and then let's look for scheme, open bracket I, DRWSCM create, DRW colors I3, okay. And come down here, visual line, yank that up, then paste that in. All right, and that should be all of that, okay. Quit out of that, right quit, and let's run make. And did that. And this one did edit config.def.h. Yep, sure did. So let's rm config.h, run make. Okay, net WM name X intern atom DPY. Net atom. Oh, there it is. Had the plus left in there. Forgot to get it out. All right, so we'll right and quit that. Right and quit that. Get over here. Alt Shift C to close that. Clear the screen and rm config.h. Let's run make. There we go. I knew I was doing it too fast. So let's move DWM status 2D systray into patches. And now let's patch in title color. So patch-p1 DWM title color. All right, all that worked. So the rm config.h. Let's run make. All right, so Alt Shift Q. And now all of our patches are done. So let's env DWM title color into patches. All right, so let's nvim config.h. Now here's where you can get into your customizations and stuff. So let's take a look at a few of the things that I like to do to get my key binding set up and all that. So if you only wanted to see the patches, all that's over with. If you want to see the customizations and stuff that I like to do, here's where all that's going to happen. All right, so the first thing I like to do is actually change the font. So I'm going to change my system font here from Monospace to JetBrains Mono Nerd font. And then size 10, let's change that to size 12. I'm going to come out here and add a comma, and then let's add Noto color emoji colon size equals 14. Yeah, let's do 14. Then colon anti-alias equals true. Auto hint equals true. And then let's change my D menu font to JetBrains Mono Nerd font. And let's change that size to 12. All right. And then now your colors, I like to add a few colors in here. They don't have to be used used, but if you wanted to add a few colors to, let's say you wanted to have your D menu be a different color than what's listed here, or you wanted to have an additional color that you can use somewhere else for a border or whatever, you can add that here. So what I like to do, I'm going to change some of these names so they're a little easier to recognize. So my color gray 1 or color gray 1, I want that to be named dark. So let's run colon %s col underscore gray 1. I want to replace that with col underscore dark and do that everywhere. All right. And that takes you down to the last instance of where it changed. All right. So, and I want to change this to the background color that I want. So instead of 222222, let's do 1D2021. Now, color gray 2, let's make that like a medium gray or a dark gray or whatever. So let's do colon %s col underscore gray 2. Let's make that col underscore mid gray and change that everywhere. And let's make that 665 C54. Now color mid gray. Let's see. You know what? Let's change that again. %s all right, and let's change that color to 3C3836. And then let's run %s col underscore gray 3 to col underscore mid gray. Change that everywhere. And let's change that color back to 665 C54. Color gray 4. Let's make that one white. So let's see, %s color gray 4 to color underscore white. Now you don't have to do color col underscore. You can just make it the color, but just for reasons, why not? I'm just going to keep it like this. and let's give it the G flag to do it everywhere. All right. And now color cyan, let's make that blue. Actually, let's change the color for white. Let's run F9F 5D7. And now color cyan, let's do %S. Let's change that to COLBLUE. All right. And make that everywhere. All right. And let's change that to 458588. And then let's yank that and make another one. Let's make a yellow one. And that's FABD2F. And let's make a red one. And that's CC241D. Now, what I'm doing is creating a Groovebox color scheme. Easy peasy. Now, what I want to do here, I want to change some of my color schemes here. So my scheme normal is going to be, the foreground is color mid-gray, color dark, and color dark gray for the border. The selected scheme is going to be a white foreground with the blue background and a blue border. Now the title is going to be a white foreground, blue background, and blue border. So what I want to do, I actually want to make this font yellow, and I want this to be dark, and I want this to be dark. So let's right and quit this and then run make. All right, Alt-Shift-Q, and you see everything has changed colors now. And I like that. I like that a lot. So now if we nvim config.h and then come on down, you'll see that we have Firefox actually starting on tag 9. And honestly, you can leave it like that and just hit mod control 9 or mod control whatever and bring it to the tag that you're on. But if you wanted to get rid of that, change that to a 0. And right now you have GIMP set to float. If you don't want GIMP to float, change that to a 0. Easy peasy. But what I want to do actually is add a couple of things. So I'm going to undo this because GIMP can float. Doesn't matter to me. So I'm going to yank this and I'm going to change this to SXIV. I want all my XFIV windows to float. And since I added the patch for, always center, I don't have to have a rule for it to be centered on the screen. And I want all of my scratch pads to float. So I want to, I'm going to paste that in a couple more times. So let's say scratch pad. And let's say scratch pulse. Say scratch VIFM. And scratch FZF. And if you wanted to line all these up, you can. Now here, static const float mfact. Here is where you can set how much of your screen is taken up by the master or stack window. Right now it's set to 0.55. So let's say I spawned another window right now. You'll see that the master is taking up 55% of the screen, which is leaving the stack with 45%. So you can change that to 0.50 or 0.5, whatever. Or you can, if you want to change that to 0.80 or 0.20, whatever, however you want to go about it, you can have your master window as wide or as narrow as you want. And that will work on all your layouts. So your bottom stack and all that will have the same kind of ratio divided up between your master and stack windows. Your end master is where you set how many master windows you want. So let's say you have a really wide monitor. Let's say you got one of those big, obnoxious 49-inch wide monitors. Let's say you wanted 3 master windows before it ever even started putting anything in the stack. You can change that here. And here's where you have your layouts listed here. Right now you have tile, you have null is pretty much floating. Monocle is going to be like a full screen. B-stack is going to be same as master and stack, but flip 90 degrees. B-stack horizontal is going to be much the same. All right, now your mod key definitions. I like to add a couple of things here. So I want to change the alt to super, but I still want to use the alt key for a few things. So let's change mod key to mod 4 mask, and then change mod key for mod 1 mask to alt key. Now your static const character for dmenu command, this is going to be what runs dmenu and sets the fonts and the colors and all that. So if you want to change this to be just the default dmenu_run command, get rid of everything else that's past all of that. You know, fn, dmenu font, mb, color dark, whatever. You can get rid of all that and have just the standard dmenu run if you wanted that. So if I hit alt P, you'll see that my dmenu, what my dmenu looks like. Let's just run make now. There we go. All right. So if you wanted to just get rid of all that other stuff and just run your standard dmenu and configure it through there, honestly, that's what I like to do. But if you wanted to configure it that way, it's 100% possible. Not a big deal. So in vim config.h, and let's go back. Let's go back down here. All right, so our dmenu command and our term command. So it's dmenu run and st. So I like to add a couple of things here. Well, I say a couple of things, a lot of things here, because I like to keep my spawns looking like this. Instead of having an shcmd, blah, 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 whatever. I like to have them looking like this. So if I go to, let's say, I'm going to yank that one and then change term cmd to, let's say, alt menu cmd. I want that to be scratch.sh fzf. So if I actually open this up and then run scratch.sh fzf, okay, that works. All right. And then alt, let's see, alt menu cmd. Let's do alt term cmd. All right, so now let's do this. All right, I want this to be alternative programs, and all alternative programs I want to be called with alt key. So ALTKEY. And I want to get rid of the shift mask. And I want that to call alt term cmd. And I want alt key P alt menu cmd. And now let's see, alt shift return. Let's get rid of that because I want alt return to open up st. But alt return here actually switches places. So I'm going to actually add shift mask. Now we're going to get rid of this shift mask. And change C to X. And we're going to add a shift mask here. and change that to T. All right. And now if I say, let's say, all right, let's say I'll right and quit that and run make mod shift Q. Now, okay, mod and enter, mod and X, okay, nvim config.h. And see, I like to make just a couple of changes at a time and then run make. And then that way, if I mess something up, I know I haven't changed just a ton of stuff. It's just the way I like to do it. And I like to change a few of these key bindings around, like for your gaps and all that. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to bring over my config.h from my other build of DWM, and I'll just take you through all the changes there. Let's right and quit that. And let's run VIFM. All right, so let's go back and go to LDDWM. And let's go into my config.def.h. Get rid of that, yank that, paste it there, change that back to def.h. All right, and now let's run make. And if I run Alt-P, it's centered, but it's way too big. So if I go to cd.local, if I cd into .local bin, clear the screen, and then nvim scratch.sh, I can change my geometry here. I want to change this from 150 by 50 to, let's say, 120 by 30. And then right and quit, and then Alt-P. That looks way better. And those are killable. Local source, Suckless Software, DWM, nvim config.h. Okay, so right now my D menu is set to dmenu command.sh, but I'm going to change that back to dmenu _ run. And then let's see, alt menu command term cmd I have set to st and browser set to Firefox ESR. That way I can have, if I want to change from Firefox to Brave, I can change it in one place instead of changing it in a few. Or change st to kitty or whatever, I can change it in one place. And I have my private web command set to browser -- private, alternative web command set to Librewolf, alternative private web command Librewolf -- private. I have volume commands, brightness commands, mainly for my laptop, but this in a VM is not going to matter. Your keyboard light, Wi-Fi.sh. And I need to move over my DWM bar. Actually, I'm glad I saw that. Let's do resolution.sh. Let's get rid of that, and it should be good to go. So now if I go over here and make everything bigger, cd.local source Suckless Software DWM, LDDWM, and then cd into scripts, you'll see DWM bar emoji. So if I run VIFM here and send this to another workspace, let's go back to bin, DWM bar emoji, colorless bar emoji. Let's get rid of those. Paste that in, right and quit, and then now let's cd back and let's run make. All right, and let's do wm exit.sh, and let's log out. Log back in. Okay, there we go. All right, so everything's looking a lot better now. Sorry, there was a little troubleshooting and whatnot going on there, but a lot of that was vastly unscripted, so as you could probably tell. But I just wanted to kind of take you from TTY to my version of DWM soup to nuts. And honestly, I like my version. It works really well. And so if I run, dang it, get in there. Let's see, bg, bgcell.sh, and then let's say I wanted to change it to, let's say, the Dalek MQ. There we go. And all that static key bindings. It's just some of them are the same. Some of them are the same as what my key bindings are on my host machine, so they're kind of getting a little confused. But anyway, I probably should have just left everything on Alt. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just kind of wanted to show what this was like, and kind of show you what my process was of going in and downloading DWM, patching everything in that I wanted. And, when things fail, don't freak out. It's okay. Just go in, read your reject file, and make your changes where you need to. And just check to make sure that you don't have anything stepping on anything else's toes. And you'll be fine. As long as you read and make backups, you'll be fine. And yeah, this is what I've got so far. I really like this here. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, this looks strangely similar to Luke Smith's config. And honestly, it kind of does, with the, with it not showing all the tags, and with it having color emojis in the bar and all that. I mean, yeah, it's going to look a little bit similar, but I like my setup, and I hope you do too. And if you'd like to take a look at my setup or what have you, I'll leave a link down to my GitLab page and see what you think. So if you want to use my script for anything, use any of my scripts for anything, feel free. If you want to use my bar or use my snapshotting scripts, I'll leave links down to everything. And yeah, it works really well. I've been quite pleased with this. I've been running this same kind of setup on my laptop for a while now, and it's been rock solid. And even through the install process, if I run sudo btrfs subvolume list from root, and say I've got a ton of stuff up through here that's already ready to go. And if you want to be able to boot into a snapshot through a dmenu command, I have a script for that, but I don't have it set to change anything just yet. So if you want it to change something, run it without the -i command first, and make sure that it's going to be right in your use case before you add the -i, and then you got to boot back into it from a USB and then mount your OS and then change your FS tab to fix it. So you're warned. If you want to set up yours that way, definitely try to run the script first without the -i flag. So by default, it does not change the FS tab. It just spits out to the terminal what it looks like. And if you want to change that to the -i after you have found out that it will work, then uncomment that line or add the -i or whatever, and you can actually boot into a snapshot from dmenu. So with all that said, I just kind of wanted to take you through the install process of DWM with encrypted Btrfs subvolumes on a minimal install, and just kind of show it's not as hard as some people would say would think it is. I mean, I'm no rocket scientist, and I don't know C, but I was still able to get this working and get it working well. So if you'd like to, like I said earlier, if you'd like to take a look at any of my scripts, absolutely feel free. If you'd like to, leave me a comment and tell me how wrong I am that, you absolutely need patches in DWM to make it usable. I mean, you did it yourself, blah, blah, blah. Leave that comment too. I don't care. But if you want to leave the comment saying, oh, you don't have near enough patches, My build of DWM with 42 patches in it is far superior to yours in every way. Let me know. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed it. I sure did. So y'all have a good one. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.